My name is Isabel Lauron, and I have learned something about wealthy rooms. They are never as secure as they look. The drive from rural Hudson Valley to the heart of Manhattan took 2 hours, but emotionally it felt like crossing continents. My husband, Adrian Lauron, drove our 12-year-old Audi with the quiet ease of a man who never felt the need to impress anyone. The paint had faded slightly on the hood. There was a scratch near the back bumper from when our son misjudged a basketball in the driveway. Inside the car, though, everything felt steady. Our daughter Camille, 10, sat in the back seat reading Pride and Prejudice like it was written for her personally. Our son Leo, 7, kept asking whether skyscrapers touched the clouds. Adrian wore a navy blazer with subtle stitching at the cuffs, tailored years ago in Milan.
No logo. No branding.
Just perfect structure. I wore a black silk dress that had belonged to my grandmother, altered but not modernized. I don't chase trends. I outlast them. We had been invited to the engagement celebration of Adrian's former business partner, Marcus Hale, hosted at the top 3 floors of a newly renovated historic tower overlooking Central Park. The invitation had been embossed in gold. The irony would reveal itself later. Arrival. The valet line stretched halfway down the block. Lamborghinis. Bentleys. A Rolls-Royce Phantom gleaming under Manhattan streetlights like a crown jewel. When Adrian pulled up in our Audi, the valet's expression flickered, just briefly, before professional composure returned. Keys were handed over. We stepped out into a world of curated light and curated people. Inside, champagne flowed like oxygen. Music hummed softly beneath the noise of ambition. Marcus spotted us.
And paused.
It was subtle, but I saw it. That split-second hesitation before he smiled. Adrian, he called, louder than necessary. He didn't hug him, didn't introduce us immediately. Instead, a coordinator appeared and guided us, not to the central seating near the skyline windows, but toward a side lounge area near the catering entrance. Dim lighting, partial view, strategic invisibility. Camille squeezed my hand. "Mom, is this the family section?" I smiled gently. "It's the observers section." Adrian said nothing, but I saw it, the quiet narrowing of his eyes. The calculation. Marcus's fiancée, Victoria Hale, descended the marble staircase like a headline. She was beautiful in the way diamonds are beautiful, sharp, refracting light, impossible not to notice. Her gown shimmered silver. Her smile shimmered thinner. "Oh," she said when she reached us. Her gaze swept over Adrian's blazer. "Still dressing like you're at a vineyard retreat?" Adrian smiled pleasantly. "Comfort ages well." Victoria turned to Camille. "That dress is vintage, I assume?" "It belonged to my great-grandmother," Camille said proudly. Victoria tilted her head. How sustainable. There it was. Not an insult. A positioning. The children. Later, Leah wandered toward the dessert table, a sculptural display of French pastries and gold-dusted chocolates. Victoria intercepted him. "Oh, sweetheart, those are very rich. Maybe you'd prefer something simpler?" He looked confused. "I like chocolate," he said. She laughed softly. "I'm sure you do." When Leo returned, he didn't meet my eyes. "They said I should wait," he whispered. Something inside me tightened. Adrian's jaw flexed once. Barely noticeable. The breaking point. 20 minutes later, Camille excused herself to the restroom. When she returned, her eyes were red. "There were girls in there," she said quietly. "They asked if we were staff because of our car." Adrian stood slowly. He didn't look angry. That was the most unsettling part. He looked finished. Victoria reappeared, voice smooth as glass. "I hope everything's all right." Large gatherings can be overwhelming for children who aren't used to them. There it was. The public framing. Adrian adjusted his cufflinks. Marcus, he called calmly. The room quieted. Marcus approached, uneasy now. What's going on? Adrian took out his phone. Quick question, he said evenly. Do you remember who structured the acquisition deal for this building? Marcus blinked. Of course. Hale Development. Underwritten by? Adrian prompted. Silence. Adrian turned his phone toward him. His face drained of color. The name at the top of the investment entity.
Laurent Capital Holdings.
5 years earlier, when Marcus's development firm was collapsing under debt, Adrian had quietly absorbed the liabilities through a private holding company. He never publicized it, never attached his name. He allowed Marcus to believe he'd recovered independently. The building they were celebrating in tonight? Technically owned by Adrian's firm. Victoria's champagne glass trembled. That's not possible, she whispered. It is, Adrian said softly. You defaulted on 2 clauses last quarter. I chose not to enforce them. Tonight, however, I am reconsidering that leniency. The room was utterly silent now. No music.
No laughter.
Only awareness spreading like wildfire. You built your new life on an image, Adrian continued. An image financed by discretion. I don't mind helping friends. I do mind watching them look down on my children while standing on my generosity. Victoria's composure cracked. You're threatening us at our own event. Adrian smiled, calm, almost kind. I'm correcting a misunderstanding. He stepped closer. This isn't your tower.
He let that land.
As of tonight, Laurent Capital is exercising its buyout clause. Full transfer of management control effective immediately. You'll retain minority equity, assuming compliance. Marcus looked like the floor had disappeared beneath him. You can't do this in front of everyone. Adrian's voice remained steady. You chose the audience.
He took Leo's hand.
Then Camille's. I slipped my arm through his. We walked through a parted crowd. The same people who had dismissed us minutes earlier, now avoiding eye contact. Outside, the valet hurried forward. But this time, he didn't hand Adrian the Audi keys first. He handed him a slim black leather folder. The master access credentials, sir, the valet said respectfully. Because now he knew. Everyone knew. Adrian thanked him and took our car keys.
No spectacle.
No raised voice. Just truth revealed. As Manhattan faded behind us, Camille spoke softly. Why didn't you tell them before? Adrian met her eyes in the mirror. Because power isn't proven by announcing it. It's proven by how long you can afford not to. Leo leaned forward. Are we richer than them? Adrian considered carefully. We're wealthier in choices. That's different. I reached for his hand. The city lights dimmed in the distance. Inside the car, there was no performance. No audience. Just certainty. We hadn't won because of money. We had won because we never needed it to define us. They laughed at our old car, part 2, the morning after. The internet had already decided by sunrise. By the time I woke up in our quiet Hudson Valley farmhouse, Manhattan was dissecting the previous night in clipped whispers and group chats with names like Inner Circle and Legacy Investors. Someone had recorded it. Of course they had. Not the entire confrontation, just enough. Just Adrian's calm voice saying, You chose the audience. And then, this isn't your tower. The clip was 14 seconds long. It had already been viewed 32,000 times. The silence before the storm. Adrian was at the kitchen table when I came downstairs. Not in a suit. Not on a call. He was barefoot, wearing his faded gray sweater, drinking black coffee while reviewing something on his tablet. He looked relaxed, which meant something complicated was happening. They'll try to spin it, I said. They already are, he replied calmly. He turned the screen toward me. A business blog headline glared back. Hale Development faces hostile takeover after public dispute. Adrian didn't do hostile. He did inevitable. Victoria's first move. At 9:17 a.m., Victoria posted a statement. It was elegant.
Strategic.
Dmitry Volkov was one of them. The room felt smaller. You helped him hide money? I helped him legally restructure holdings before international sanctions were imposed. Is that the same thing? He met my eyes.
No.
Silence. But it isn't clean either. 2 days later, a federal investigator requested a voluntary meeting. The photo had been submitted anonymously. Someone wanted this reopened. It had to be Victoria. Her financial retaliation failed. So now she was reaching backward, trying to reframe Adrian not as disciplined, but dangerous. The truth he never shared. That night, after the children were asleep, Adrian told me everything. In 2011, Volkov anticipated sanctions. He needed restructuring fast. Adrian, then an independent strategist, was hired through an intermediary firm. He reallocated assets into diversified international holdings. Everything technically legal. Everything aggressively timed. 2 years later, Volkov was investigated. But the case collapsed. Insufficient evidence. However, if prosecutors believed Adrian knowingly assisted sanction evasion, Lauron Capital could face scrutiny. Investors could panic. Our life could fracture. The choice. Why didn't you tell me? I asked quietly.
Because it was finished, he said.
And because I built Lauron Capital specifically to never need clients like that again. That's not an answer. He inhaled slowly. I didn't tell you because I was ashamed I ever accepted the work. That was the first crack I'd seen in him. Not fear.
Shame.
The investigation. The meeting with federal authorities lasted 3 hours. Adrian provided documentation, time-stamped legal opinions, compliance memos. He had protected himself, even back then, because Adrian never moves without contingencies. Still, news leaked. Headlines shifted tone. Lauron Capital founder linked to former oligarch. Stock dipped again. Board members requested emergency reassurance. Marcus called, voice tense. Is it true? Yes, Adrian answered. And it was legal. That's not the same as safe, Marcus muttered.
No.
It wasn't. Victoria's final play. A journalist reached out privately. He admitted someone had been feeding him documents for weeks. Emails. Travel records. Board connections. Is this revenge? He asked me directly when he caught me outside our children's school. I looked him in the eye. No, I said evenly. This is desperation. The breaking point. That night, Camille stood in our bedroom doorway. Are we going to lose the house? Her voice was small. It gutted me. Adrian knelt in front of her. No, he said gently. Promise. He paused. And in that pause, I saw something new. Not uncertainty. Not fear. But acceptance. If we ever lose anything, he said softly, it will be because we chose integrity over comfort. Camille studied him. Is that bad? No, he said. It's expensive. 3 weeks later, the federal office released a statement. After reviewing documentation, they confirmed. No evidence of wrongdoing. No charges. No further inquiry. The sanctions Volkov later faced had occurred after Adrian's contract ended. Legally separate. Victoria's attempt to weaponize the past collapsed. But this time, Adrian didn't celebrate. He stood on our porch that evening, looking over the orchard. I can fight competitors, he said quietly. I can outmaneuver investors.
He turned to me.
But I can't undo the kind of work I once agreed to do. For the first time in this entire saga, he looked human. Not untouchable. Not strategic. Just a man who once made choices he wouldn't make today. 2 months later, Adrian announced a restructuring of Loron Capital. He created a new compliance division. Full transparency policy. No high-risk sovereign clients. Public ethics charter. Reporters called it reputation management. They were wrong. It was evolution. One evening, months later, Leo asked, "Dad, were you bad before?" Adrian crouched down beside him. "No," he said carefully. "I was ambitious." "Is that different?" "Yes."
How?
"Ambition wants to win," Adrian said quietly. "Wisdom wants to live with the win." Leo nodded slowly. That night, as we lay in bed, I realized something important. Victoria had tried to destroy us with humiliation, then with finance, then with history. But in digging up Adrian's past, she forced him to confront it fully. And in doing that, she didn't weaken him. She finished him, not as a billionaire, not as a strategist, but as a man who now knew exactly what he would never become again. This is where everything either breaks or becomes unshakable. Power is loud when it's insecure, but legacy? Legacy is quiet. It doesn't scream. It doesn't need witnesses. It simply outlasts. The silence before the storm. 6 months after Adrian's past nearly tore through our lives, the world believed the danger had passed. The investigation into Victor Kessler had concluded. The offshore accounts were frozen. The blackmail evidence sealed. Publicly, nothing tied Adrian to the scandal. Privately, we knew how close it had come. One signature, one misstep, one moment of hesitation. That's all it would have taken to dismantle everything. But Adrian never hesitated, and that frightened the people who had tried to corner him, because they realized something too late. He wasn't protecting wealth. He was protecting structure. It arrived without warning. A formal proposal from a global consortium seeking a majority acquisition of Loron Capital. The valuation? Astronomical. Enough to place Adrian among the top tier of global financiers overnight. The board was ecstatic. Marcus called twice in one day.
"This is history," he said.
"You sell, you walk away untouchable." Adrian read the numbers once. Then he closed the folder. "I'm not selling." The board thought it was negotiation strategy. It wasn't. That night, in the quiet of our living room, I asked him why. "Because if I sell," he said calmly, "we become the thing we fought." I frowned. "Explain." For the first time, Marcus wasn't performing confidence. He had earned it. After the meeting, he found Adrian alone. "You changed me," Marcus admitted quietly. Adrian shook his head.
"No."
"You decided to change." That mattered more. Victoria's last move. It came subtly. A private letter. Handwritten. No legal threats.
"No manipulation."
Just truth. She wrote, "I built my identity on control. When I lost it, I realized I had never built loyalty."
"You did."
I was wrong. Adrian read it once, folded it carefully, and placed it in a drawer.
"No triumph. No gloating."
Just closure. Some battles don't end with explosions. They end with understanding. A year later, we attended another gala, the same venue where the laughter had first begun. Same marble floors. Same crystal chandeliers. Same polished arrogance floating through the room. This time, we arrived in the same old car. Not because we had to,
Because we chose to.
Whispers followed us. Not mockery.
Curiosity.
Respect. Power without performance unsettles people. The speech. Adrian was invited to speak.
No teleprompter. No dramatic entrance.
He stepped forward and said, "Many years ago, someone laughed at the car I drove to an event like this." Soft murmurs rippled through the room. I never forgot that. A pause. but not because it embarrassed me. He scanned the audience. I remembered it because it revealed something important. When people measure you by surface, they expose the limits of their vision. The room stilled. Wealth is not what you display. It's what you can protect. It's what you can sustain. It's what you can walk away from. His gaze softened slightly. And if you build something strong enough, you won't need anyone's approval to prove it exists. No applause at first.
Just stillness.
Then it came.
Slow.
Controlled.
Earned.
The children grow. Years passed. Leo developed Adrian's calm. Camille inherited something sharper, perception. One afternoon, Leo asked, "Dad, what was the turning point? When you knew we'd be okay?" Adrian didn't hesitate. "The moment I stopped trying to be seen." Camille smiled. "That's powerful." Adrian shook his head gently. "It's peaceful." The final truth. On a quiet evening in late autumn, Adrian and I stood in the orchard again. Leaves scattered across the grass. The farmhouse lights glowing behind us. "You ever regret not selling?" I asked.
No.
"Not even a little?" He looked at me. "I never wanted to win the game." "Then what did you want?" He took my hand. "To change the rules." What they never understood. They laughed at our old car. They measured success by spectacle. They assumed silence meant weakness. But what they never understood was this. The strongest people in a room are rarely the loudest. The wealthiest foundations are rarely the most visible. And the most dangerous opponent is the one who doesn't need to prove anything. The last line. If you ever find yourself underestimated, smile. Let them talk. Let them laugh. Because when the dust settles, when the applause fades, when the headlines die, the only thing that remains is what you built. And if you build it right, you'll never need their permission again.